The Lonely Island. I was just 17 when I arrived in Jersey in the Channel Islands in November 1951, ready to work for a living as best I could, but determined above all to write a book and become famous. But before I could do anything about it, I went down with jaundice. I had probably picked up the infection in the seedy, cheap Lamington Road Hotel in Bombay, where I had spent 3 weary days waiting for the ship to sail. But 2 years earlier as well, at the school in Shimla, I had been hospitalized with jaundice. Years ago, my father had died of hepatitis, which was the same thing. So perhaps there was a family tendency to be afflicted with liver problems. Whatever the cause, I had only been in my aunt's house in Jersey for a few days when I was overcome with fatigue and went yellow all over. As yellow as the haldi I had brought for my aunt, and which had spilled out into my suitcase, ruining my 2 good shirts. Uncle John, my Aunt Emily's husband, was a retired doctor from Lahore, and he put me to bed and treated me with barley water and light fluids. And after a week's rest, I was up and about, ready to explore the little port and resort town of St. Helier, where my uncle and aunt had settled. Jersey was an island about 46 square miles in size, the largest of the Channel Islands between France and England. It was best known for its tomatoes, tourism, pretty bays and beaches, and of course, Jersey cows. The climate was milder than England's, but in winter, powerful gales often blew across the channel, and the fishing boats would take shelter from the heavy seas. I was neither a tourist nor on holiday. If I was going to live with my aunt and uncle and their 3 sons, one working and 2 at school, I felt it was imperative that I find a job and contribute something to earn my keep. I went about this in a very simple and innocent way. For several days in succession, I walked down the St. Helier High Street, knocking at the doors of the offices and inquiring if there was a vacancy in their firm. Most of them were legal firms, and I had no legal knowledge or qualifications. The bigger shops and department stores looked more promising. I told their office manager that I could type, do a little shorthand, deal with correspondence, make bills and invoices, and add and subtract in pounds, shillings, and pence. My efforts were finally rewarded, and I was taken on as a junior clerk by Les Riches, a big department store with branches all over the island. My uncle and aunt were astonished when I told them I had a job. They hadn't expected that I would go out on the streets looking for one. The pay was only £3 a week, but there was no income tax in Jersey, so I could give my aunt £1 a week towards my upkeep and keep £2 for books, films, clothes, and the trip to London that I had promised myself. Larish made me work hard for that £3. Their office kept very long hours, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. It was dark when I left my aunt's shack on the hill, and it was dark when I returned to it in the evening. There was the drudgery of keeping accounts and maintaining a ledger. The bench was cold and hard. The midday tea was horrible. The British love their tea, but they don't know how to make it. Nevertheless, there was one saving grace. Twice a week, it would be my turn to carry the day's steak to the main branch in a suburb called Georgetown. And after delivering the money, I was free to do what I liked. It seemed odd to be sending a boy on such an errand, carrying a bag full of money through the streets of a seaside town, but Jersey was relatively crime-free, and anyway, they probably thought I was expendable. Georgetown had a small cinema that showed reruns of old British comedies, and after making my delivery, I would spend a delicious hour or two watching the antics of such comedians as Will Hay, who wrote and played the role of an agitated schoolmaster, George Formby, who played the ukulele, Max Miller, who spent a lot of time betting on horse races, and old Mother Riley, an actor called Arthur Lucan who dressed up as an old lady. These and others made me quite an expert on British film comedy of an earlier era. But my evenings were lonely. I walked up and down the seafront, watching the tide come in, the waves washing against the piers or going out, leaving the gulls to clear the beaches of the leftovers from visitors. But it was still winter and there were few people around. I was very homesick. How I missed India. How I missed Dehra, the old station canteen, the bazaar, the parade ground, my friends, Ranbir, his sister Raj, Bhim, Kishan, others, and our excursions, bicycle rides, the hot sun of summer, the monsoon downpours, the mango season, guavas, marigolds, birds in the banyan tree, Tonga ponies trotting down the shady lanes, the little railway station, watching the platform recede from vision as the train took me away, sweet faces seeing me off. Goodbye, goodbye. Would I ever see them again? The waves then came drifting in, and I walked on. While I was around so many people and the hustle bustle of the city behind me, I was still alone, a stranger in an unfamiliar land.